So a lot has happened since we last spoke. Obviously, the IBF strips Terence Crawford.
Yeah.
And Terence Crawford's done some interviews speaking about it.
Yeah.
And Boots has done interviews responding to Terence Crawford's criticism.
I seen
reference on this, email champion that everybody, is comfortable winning an email belt nowadays.
Here's why I say when it comes to Terence Crawford, right? People try to throw the black prime and all that situation. He keep on saying, I think he said something like, Boots had 2 opportunities and turned it down, which is not true at all. You never offered him while he was ranked number 2 in the WBO. Like, don't do that, bro. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, don't say that you made him an offer because you didn't, because he was always ranked number 2. The reason he took the IBF route, because that was the only belt sanctioning that had him ranked number 1. And if you remember, they put the pressure on the IBF when Spence and Crawford first fell out. So if you look at this situation, you remember one of our interviews, people watch it, Terence Crawford and Spence froze out the division. They literally did, because the belt sanctionings was catering to that fight Now, going from there, but let's go back to Crawford, where I feel like he looks wrong, because it's like he a compliment then throwing a sneak diss. Like, oh yeah, let him do great, stuff like that. But if I was him, he's carrying around 3 belts. Go back to the IBF. The IBF, because of Spence and Crawford, this is what the IBF should have did. The IBF should have been stripped Spence and made Crawford versus Spence. With no IBF, then Crawford would have unified against Boots. That's what they should have did, but they played the politics into Spence and Crawford. But going back to that, all right, so IBF since they gave Spence and Crawford, playing that game, they made him an interim champ. So he fought, would it be the guy, Karen for the interim belt. So when you're an interim belt, you're technically a champion by rule.
Yes.
So you took out all them sanctionings.
Yes.
So you fought Avanesian after that, bro. He fought for the Avanesian fight with Black Prime was after that, so he was already into it. So you can't be like, oh yeah, you went out the...
No, he fought Avanesian.
Yeah.
And then Boots petitions the IBF to face Spence. They order Karen.
All right, ordered Karen. All right, cool. So replay that back. All right, so he fights Karen for the IBF, and they put it as an interim title. So technically, you're fighting for a title.
Yeah.
So then he gets taken out of other rankings. You had a chance when it was Avanesian. You went down because it made business sense, because Avanesian got an overseas promoter, so you ain't dealing with the other American politics when it comes to Black Prime. So they made Avanesian versus Terence Crawford. He could have fought Boots. He could have fought Rocha. Any of them he could have offered in that Black Prime, because they was ranked. They was ranked ahead. Boots was 2, Virgil was 1. And I don't think, when was the last time Bud fought his mandatory was technically Sean Porter, because Virgil pulled out of that and then Sean Porter became number 1. So that whole, you had 2 opportunities to fight me and all that. No, you trying to make it seem like he's avoiding you. The dude never avoided you, stuff like that. He was in a politics game where he had Virgil Ortiz in front of him, so he couldn't mandate you. Where IBF, it was like, all right, I'm number 1 now. Now I could push for that mandate. And when he pushed for that mandate, they played the politics of the Spence and Crawford, and they gave him an interim title. So when you're an interim title, so technically you're supposed to either fight for that title. If they don't want to fight you, you automatically move up. It ain't like, oh yeah, it's a vacate now, because technically you're a champion. They gave you a champion because now you're interim to be that champion. So it looks crazy when I seen him doing the interviews and stuff like that, trying to make it seem like, oh yeah, Boots avoided him. That's cat. Now I'm not going to say that Terence Crawford straight said that he wasn't entertaining Boots, because from what I heard, they had small talks with Showtime, but then the Errol Spence came to play. Once Errol Spence came to play, that's when that's when the whole thing with Boots, he wasn't even thinking about Boots. You got Errol Spence, and now it's like after the Errol Spence fight that it seems like he's getting pressured to fight Boots, and he's making up all types of excuses. Boots don't bring nothing to the table. We had this interview before where I said right now there's probably only 2 fights bigger than Boots that people want to see. That's Canelo. He's technically 3 weight divisions up. It was Jamel Charlo, but technically you don't want to fight him because you feel like he lost value of the Canelo fight because you feel like he didn't try and all that. So it ain't really that people. The Errol Spence is, I guess, is not going to be like the same as the first fight because people seen that it wasn't competitive, and you know that's how I look at it. So the whole situation of him, like, it's like he is like he compliments him, then want to be competitive and throw aside this and run with a narrative, which is not true.
I'm not sure if he realizes that the IBF making Jaron Ennis the interim actually helped him accomplish Undisputed faster, as opposed to them stripping Errol Spence and then him having to face Errol Spence and then face Jaron Ennis to become Undisputed.
Fact.
No, so it was actually like a gift and a curse because you get the gift of just going into one fight and getting 3 belts, but you get stripped right afterwards. So it's like a plus minus. Like,
yeah, here's the thing. I look at Terence Crawford fan base, and I doubt Terence Crawford was even really thinking about this. In his head, he probably knew like he's most likely going to get stripped or however if you don't fight Boots. But I'm gonna say the fan base. Errol Spence, Boots is mandatory like 2 years. Even if Errol Spence would have won and went into that rematch, he would have got stripped if he didn't fight Boots. So it ain't they saying, oh, just because it's Terence Crawford, they stripped him in a couple months. No, they should have known going into that rematch that he's going to get stripped. So this is how, when I come at the fans, it's like Terence Crawford fans, that's why I call them Bud clowns. They want Terence Crawford to hold the belt hostage and freeze out Boots. This is why I was like, people need to be fans of the sport. Even if you think he's going to win, lose, or threat, you need to see the best fights. The best fight, everybody know, is Boots. If even outside of the quote-unquote boxing media, be saying Charlemagne, Stephen A. Smith, Joe Rogan, everybody want to see that fight. So Bud finds ways, because this is the first time where I believe Bud he's not used to being a prey. He's not used to being hunted. He used to being a hunter. He used to being like, having situations where people avoided him, and now it seems like it's pressure. You're doing the same thing that you felt like you was getting done to you.